I had always been close with Emily. I helped her with her shyness, and even got hurt protecting her once. But when Ben asked her who I was, the always composed rich girl just looked at him, straightened the collar on his shirt, and said very casually, but with clear disrespect, "Oh, him. He's just someone who works for us." Later, Ben and his two best friends formed a group of 5, including us. Just like that, the number of people I had to serve and try to please went from 1 to 4. It wasn't until just before our final exams that I found Ben's phone. Notifications kept popping up on the screen from a private group chat they had. Just the 4 of them. Emily. All our paperwork for studying overseas is finalized. Jake. Does that kid still think Emily is going to take him with her? He's going to be pretty shocked after graduation, huh? Max. That hustler is always trying to stick around us. I heard he even tells people we're all childhood friends. Jake. He's dreaming. Ben is the one who's our childhood friend. He's just an errand boy, right? It's always the losers who cause trouble. They were celebrating finally getting rid of me. But what they didn't know was that I had been waiting for this day for 10 years. When a bad snowstorm closed off the mountain later on, and I disappeared, I heard they went crazy looking for me. The messages on the screen kept coming, one after the other. In the dark, empty classroom, the notification sounds were like a drum beating over and over, and the light kept flashing on my face. Loser, hustler, ugly freak. The words hit my heart, a painful, spreading ache. I always knew they looked down on me. Every day, Jake would dump all 4 of their homework assignments on my desk like it was his right. He'd tell me to finish it all before I could hang out with them. The schoolwork in senior year was already too much. Finishing one person's homework would take until nightfall. Including my own, I had to do the work of 5 people, always staying up until 2 or 3 in the morning to get it all done. I knew it was a subtle way of warning me off. The hidden message was, "Stay away from us." These privileged kids never insulted me directly. Instead, they found creative ways to embarrass me. They seemed to have a natural talent for it. I wasn't actually surprised they had a private group chat. Every day, as I sat alone in the empty classroom, buried in their homework, they never bothered to block me from seeing their social media posts or TikToks. They just didn't care enough to. Their captions always focused on their 4-person group, calling themselves the Fantastic Four, and posting group photos of the 4 of them. I was the 5th person who shouldn't have been there, the one who was never meant to be seen. Almost all of those photos and videos revolved around one person, Ben. He was the son of a wealthy property owner, the prince everyone gathered around, and the core of the Fantastic Four. Emily had been obsessed with him ever since she first saw him at her 14th birthday party. Ben was getting ready for the school festival performance the next day. So this afternoon, after dropping their homework on me, the other 3 all skipped class to go to the dance studio to watch Ben practice his routine. At 6:00 p.m., Ben posted a picture of the 4 of them out to dinner. The caption read, "I was supposed to be watching my diet for the competition, but these guys dragged me out to eat. Said they were worried I'd pass out on stage tomorrow? Come on, it's just a little low blood sugar. Guess I have to punish you all by making you eat healthy with me." At 8:00 p.m., all 4 of them posted silly pictures from an escape room. The comments section was as busy as a live broadcast. Ben commented on Emily's post, "Next time you get scared, don't grab my arm." Emily replied, "You're such a chicken." I stared at Emily's post for a long time without saying anything. She was someone who almost never posted on her feed. I clicked on her profile. Her first post was from 3 years ago, and every year since, on the same date, she posted the same thing. "Happy birthday, Ben," it said. Across all her social media, The only pictures she ever posted had Ben in them. Jake and Max would occasionally leave mean, teasing comments on my posts, but Emily never commented. She might have even muted my feed entirely. I opened our chat history. The last message was from 2 months ago, when Emily asked if I had seen Ben. She had never once asked where I was. I was sick for over 2 weeks once, and she never asked about me. The first person to even notice was Jake, who needed me to do his homework and run his errands. It was 10 o'clock at night now, and the old phone Ben had left in his desk kept buzzing. Thanks to him, I was able to see all of this. Thanks to him, I found out they had all gotten their college acceptance letters and were keeping it from me, and that they were planning to laugh at me after graduation. The person who had planned and arranged for the 4 of them to study abroad together was none other than Emily, the girl I grew up with. She hadn't included me in her future. She wasn't even going to tell me. More than Jake's and Max's open insults, Emily's silence hurt the most. When did we become so cold and distant? Emily didn't used to be like this. When I was 7, my dad brought me to her. I managed to stand out among a crowd of kids showing off their talents by playing a tune on the bagpipes. It made the little rich girl, who was surrounded by compliments and attention, laugh. At the time, Mrs. Harmon was looking for a playmate for her daughter. Seeing a chance, the company's owners eagerly sent their own children over, using Emily's birthday party as an excuse. If they could become friends with the future heir of the company, they could at least become a trusted helper. If it was a boy, and they fell in love as children, he might even marry into the Harmon family. My dad was just a minor employee of Emily's father, but he had the same idea. After I finished my bagpipe performance, my dad figured it was a lost cause. But the next day, Mr. Harmon's assistant called and asked me to come over again. The second time I went, little Emily was calmly taking apart a complex puzzle cube. She called it a skewb, her tone a little uninterested, as she asked if I knew how to solve it. I picked one up and messed with it for a long time. In the end, Emily and the butler standing beside her stared wide-eyed at the solved cube in my hands. After that, I went over to her house to play a few more times, and then my dad moved us to a place near Emily's home. I was a simple, naive kid back then. I didn't understand social status or class differences. All I knew was that I had a lot of fun playing with Emily. I did occasionally wonder why I could only play with her. My dad said, "You can only play with Miss Harmon. You have to keep her happy, so I can keep my job." Mrs. Harmon often praised me back then for being smart and lively. I would sometimes overhear Mr. Harmon talking to a man in a white coat, saying that Emily's tendency to stay away from people had improved a lot. I didn't know what that meant at the time. I just knew that Emily would sometimes throw sudden tantrums. The other adults were afraid of her. The maids and her parents would try to calm her down in soft voices. I just found it strange. Why didn't her dad spank her, or even scold her? But I wasn't afraid of her. When she threw a fit, I'd challenge her on it. A child's ultimate threat was simple: "I'm not playing with you anymore." To my surprise, it worked. It worked incredibly well. Emily would stare at me in shock and rush to grab my clothes. I'll stop. Just don't stop playing with me." From then on, if she started acting up before I went home, Mrs. Harmon would threaten her by saying I wouldn't be allowed to come over tomorrow. And just like that, her emotions slowly settled down. Later, after a doctor checked on Emily, Mrs. Harmon asked me to help her make more friends. I did as she asked. I felt like a hero back then, ready to do anything for my friend. With my help, Emily started talking to more kids her age, and gradually became just like any other normal kid. My dad's position at the company rose with her progress. Then, When Emily was 10, something terrible happened. She was kidnapped, and I was taken with her. As a boy, I felt I had to protect her. I always saw doctors examining her, so I assumed she was weak. Protecting the weak. Protecting her. It was my first thought. She was terrified and wouldn't stop crying. I was scared too, but I kept comforting her. I promised her we would get home alive. Later that night, the Harmon family and the police found the kidnappers' hiding place. The kidnappers panicked and decided to kill their hostages. It was a foolish thing to do, but all I knew was what I'd seen in movies, where heroes bravely save people. I didn't know that a bullet hitting your body would make you bleed, would hurt so much you'd wish you were dead. I was in the intensive care unit for 3 days. When I woke up, I felt like I'd been to hell and back. Seeing me alive, Emily cried her eyes out. Our bond grew even stronger after that. We had been through a life-or-death experience together, after all. Emily began to truly trust me, telling me private secrets she wouldn't even tell her parents. Her parents also started treating me with more respect. Mrs. Harmon was very fond of me, often saying she wanted to make me her godson. I was excited, but when I told my dad, he didn't seem happy. But in reality, he had already used the fact that I saved Emily's life to get promoted to the president's deputy. He scolded me, "What are you so happy about? If you become her brother, how are you supposed to marry her later?" I didn't understand why I had to marry Emily, but it seemed like everyone thought that way. They all assumed I liked Emily. But what does a 10-year-old know about love? I lived a worry-free life for a while, a carefree time of childhood innocence. We were mischievous. I helped her skip class and sneak out to play. I'd copy her handwriting to do her homework, and we'd cover for each other during grade checks. I really used to think we were friends. I thought Emily felt the same way. But after her social anxiety faded, and she could interact with people normally, her parents transferred us to a new school, one for the rich and powerful. Emily began to mix with people from her own class. She fit right into the world she was born into, and became more and more of a wealthy heiress, and less like the Emily I used to know. She started to not need me anymore. Emily no longer relied on me as her only playmate. My place was awkward among those wealthy kids. They would always indirectly ask who my dad was. They would also ask Emily about my relationship with her. When they found out my dad was an employee of Emily's father, they all got this look of understanding on their faces. Around that time, I would often overhear the rich kids talking about me behind my back. They all said I was clinging to Emily, that I was shameless, that I must have used some dirty tricks to stay by her side. At first, Emily was furious when she heard those rumors. She stood up for me. After Emily lost her temper and warned them, things quieted down a bit. They still looked down on me, but they didn't dare to be so obvious about it. The turning point was when Ben showed up. After the birthday party, I started seeing Emily and Ben together more often. Ben was as handsome and bright as a prince from a comic book, with a natural, youthful charm that made it hard to look away. He was the son of a property tycoon. His family background and looks were a perfect match for Emily. Ben was a very likable guy. After he moved nearby, every time I went to Emily's house, I'd see him, chatting happily with Mrs. Harmon. Mrs. Harmon loved him. The expensive watches and cufflinks she gave him were completely different from what she'd given me. When I was mentioned, a flicker of awkwardness would cross Mrs. Harmon's face, and she'd just say vaguely, "Alex is Emily's childhood friend. His father is a very capable employee of Emily's dad. Alex and Emily used to play together a lot when they were little." Ben would let out a soft, "Ah," and then put an arm around my shoulder with easy familiarity. "You're Emily's friend, so you're my friend too. Is it cool if I call you Alex?" He acted as if he were the master of the house. Even I, as clueless as I was, could understand the subtle messages from Emily's parents. I stopped coming over as often. Mr. Harmon offered to have the family driver pick up Ben for school, along with us. My seat, which used to be next to Emily, was moved to the front next to the driver. Later, they always had to attend various parties together. Mrs. Harmon politely suggested sending a separate car just for me. That car picked me up for a few days, then the driver quit, and the arrangement was quietly dropped. My dad yelled at me for being useless, furious at me for not living up to his expectations. "Can't you just try to please them? Can't you suck up to Emily? Weren't you so lively and likable when you were a kid? Who were you trying to impress with that sad face all day?" I sat by my mother's hospital bed, looking at her in a coma without a word. But he kept talking. "What's the point of you coming to see her every day? She's been in a vegetative state for over a year and hasn't woken up. If you keep acting like a block of wood and do nothing and Miss Harmon gets tired of you, the Harmons might cut off the funding for your mom's treatment." But Emily hadn't come looking for me in a long time. Nothing I did would have mattered. But my dad's words hit home. He wouldn't pay a single cent for my mom's medical care. The Harmon family was paying the entire bill. So I shed my childhood innocence and began to carefully watch everyone's expressions. Emily would only be nice to me if I acted like I was good friends with Ben. Mrs. and Mr. Harmon would only look pleased if I helped bring the two of them together. I became careful and sensible. I started to imitate my father, learning how to please the Harmons, trying to please Ben, trying to please Emily. I was becoming more and more like my dad. Ben had two loyal friends, Jake and Max. They had been sticking to him since they were kids, absolutely adoring him. During the summer before high school, these two followed Ben, moved to our area, and transferred to our school. Their families were all friends, and they even owned a company together. Jake and Emily had known each other since they were little. So a 5-person group was officially formed, and we spent most of that summer together. Jake was arrogant and aggressive. Max was a playful flirt. They were like two guard dogs flanking Ben, only showing their softer side to him. Both were typical rich kids with nasty tempers. From the day they learned who I was, they never showed me any respect. But Ben would put his arm around me, affectionately calling me Alex. Following his lead, they were polite enough to my face. But the distance between us was obvious. With two aggressive guys protecting him, Emily felt the serious threat of two rivals. The three of them pretended to be the best of friends in front of Ben. Behind the scenes, it was a war zone as they fought fiercely for his attention. I didn't spend any time alone with Emily that whole summer, let alone have a private conversation. It was as if she had completely forgotten about her old friend. After school started, strings were pulled, and we all ended up in the same class. Emily and I had always been desk partners, but this time I stood silently to the side, watching them fight for the seat next to Ben. As expected, Emily won. Her good grades allowed her to choose first. Jake and Max weren't happy. They glared at her, then fought over the seat behind Ben, ending up as desk partners. I picked up my backpack, planning to sit in front of Ben and Emily, but Jake and Max blocked my way. Jake stretched out his long leg, blocking the aisle, and grinned arrogantly. "Hey, Alex, didn't you see that girl over there doesn't have a desk partner? Go sit with her." The girl Jake called Mutt had a facial birthmark. She sat behind Max, hiding in her seat, too afraid to make a sound. I instinctively looked at Emily. She was talking to Ben, her eyes crinkling with a smile. Max glanced at her, and then lowered his voice, a smirk on his face. "You think she's going to stick up for you?" "Sit down." Emily definitely wasn't going to stick up for me. I gave them a blank look, then silently put down my backpack and sat behind them. The girl they called Mutt and I became the targets of their bullying. She was their errand girl, and my freshly finished homework would be snatched by Jake from the front and turned in as his own. Eventually, it became me doing their homework for them. I became quiet and withdrawn. I avoided speaking in front of the four of them as much as possible, and as long as their demands weren't too outrageous, I did what they asked. I would occasionally talk to my desk partner. She was great at math, and had noticed several times that I would solve a problem correctly only to erase the answer and change it. She once whispered to me, "The teacher went over that final challenge problem today, and the answer was the same as what you calculated yesterday. Why did you write it down wrong on purpose?" I glanced up at the group of four laughing and joking in front of us, and answered softly, "Neither Emily nor Ben got it right, so I can't get it right either." Because I was always helping her, Jake would mock me and deliberately spread rumors that Mutt and I were a couple. I couldn't be bothered with their gossip and teasing. But later, when my desk partner actually confessed her feelings to me in private, Max overheard. That night, Jake and his friends cornered her in an alley and beat her so badly she ended up in the hospital. When I rushed to the hospital, her family, who had accepted a financial settlement, didn't dare take their anger out on Jake and his crew. They just pointed at me, yelling and shoving. Max pulled them away while Jake stood to the side, arms crossed, a challenging smirk on his face, as if he were waiting for me to be grateful. But I just stared at them coldly. I held back the overwhelming urge to lunge at them with everything I had. From then on, the other students in my class grouped me in with those rich kids, treating me with a mixture of disgust and fear. I didn't belong to their class, and my own class now rejected me. For my lack of gratitude, Jake and Max's attitude toward me grew even worse. And Emily? She was with Ben, unaware of the world outside her little bubble. It wasn't until my mother's life hung by a thread that I, drenched in rain, burst into a glamorous party for the first time to find Emily for help. Outside the VIP lounge, I could see Emily adjusting the collar on Ben's suit. The young man's clear voice was filled with a simple curiosity. "Emily, they say you and Alex Quinn are childhood sweethearts. Were you two really close before?" My heart pounded from running. My wet hair stuck to my forehead. I stared intently at Emily. The girl's voice was casual, tinged with contempt. Childhood sweethearts? He's just the help. It felt like my heart had been crushed. My vision blurred as rainwater streamed down my face. My phone rang. It was the hospital. My mother had stopped breathing. She was pronounced dead. The ringing startled them. They saw me and Ben jumped. Emily stared at me, stunned. Her lips moved, trying to say something. I looked at her and managed to force a smile. I hadn't smiled in a long time. I gave her one last smile. "Emily, my mother is dead." Then, ignoring whatever they tried to say or explain, I turned numbly and dragged my heavy feet away. 2 months later, I returned to school like a lifeless corpse. Everything was the same. Ben acted like nothing had happened and asked with fake concern how I was. Emily's lips trembled. "Are you okay?" My face was a mask, devoid of any emotion. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Miss Harmon." My eyes moved to my desk. It was empty. The girl had transferred. Jake slammed his homework down on my desk. I showed no reaction, simply taking it and pulling out my phone to show a payment QR code. "Mr. Jake, ghostwriting homework is priced daily, $200 per person." Jake frowned, then turned to the other three and exclaimed dramatically, "Did you guys hear that? Alex Quinn is asking us for money now." I stood perfectly still, ignoring their teasing and ridicule. Emily frowned slightly. "Alex, why have you become like this? Do you really need the money?" Max sneered. "Isn't his dad making millions a year at your family's company? Don't you guys cover all his expenses? And he still has the nerve to ask us for money?" Ben frowned. "Jake, you guys should stop forcing him to do your homework. If he doesn't want to help, just let it go." Jake scoffed, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Aren't classmates supposed to help each other out? If you didn't want to help, you could have just said so." I lit up my phone screen again. "My apologies, gentlemen. Even the help needs to get paid." Jake's face went cold. He scanned a code and transferred thousands of dollars to me. Then he gathered all their homework and slammed it down in front of me. "You want money, right? Then you do all of it. Make one mistake, and don't blame me for what happens." I lowered my eyes, picked up my pen, and without a word, began to write. And I kept writing until today. I put Ben's phone back, then placed the freshly completed homework on each of their desks. Then I pushed open the classroom door and slowly walked out of the school, the motion-activated lights flickering on around me. I was used to everyone else's disgust, but I never expected that out of the 4 people in that private group. The one who wanted to get rid of me the most was Emily. The same Emily who I grew up with, the same Emily I got hurt protecting. When a blind person gets their sight back, the first thing they throw away is their cane. She wanted to throw me away too. But Emily, did you know? I've been waiting for this day for a long time too. For 10 years I've wanted to be free of you, free of my dad, free of the Harmon family. The Chicago night was as bright as day. Even at 10 o'clock the streets were still crowded. My face felt hot and a little itchy. I touched it and felt tears. So I was crying. The smoky smell of a street vendor's grill hit me. I bought a slice of pizza and sat on the curb, eating it slowly. I had never felt so liberated as I did today. They were actually going abroad. What took them so long? I was crying, but it felt like I was laughing too. Graduation was just around the corner, and that was also the day I would turn 18. How could 3 good things happen at the same time? I wandered around for a long time before reluctantly hailing a cab home. My dad was on the phone, nodding and bowing to the person on the other end. After hanging up, he saw me come in and cursed under his breath. "You weren't with them again? Useless! Can't you do the homework faster?" I could have, but I didn't want to. That way I had an excuse not to follow them around. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him. I pushed open the door to my room like a zombie. After my mom died, he had nothing left to threaten me with. Once the door was closed, all I could hear was his powerless anger. The next day was the school festival. I was planning to skip it, but Ben sent me a message. When I arrived at the backstage dressing room, all 3 of them were there. Ben was dressed in a custom-made performance outfit. The tailored design highlighted his tall, athletic build, making him incredibly handsome. Jake and Max were fawning over him, bustling around him, treating him like he was the most important person in the world. Ben said, "Hey, you 3, stop crowding around me. I still need to practice." Seeing me walk in, he waved and strode towards me. "Alex, you're here. They're just getting in the way. I told them not to come. See how much trouble they are?" Jake let out a wolf whistle. "If we didn't come, how would you manage, you clumsy oaf?" Ben put an arm around my shoulder. "Alex can help me. Alex, what do you think of my outfit today? Does it look good?" Jake sneered. "What would he know? Look at what he's wearing today. A total ugly duckling. In the mirror, I was wearing a black tracksuit with a baseball cap and a mask. I did look pretty messy. How can you say that about someone? Ben pretended to be angry and scolded Jake. Jake stood up straight, glanced at me, and said mockingly, "He is an ugly freak. He's not handsome like you. He'd still be ugly even if he dressed up." "Jake," Ben said, displeased. Max saw the situation and patted Jake on the back to calm things down. "All right, it's Ben's big day. Behave yourself. Don't cause any trouble." Jake quickly apologized to Ben, who laughed it off. The subject was changed. Ben's family stylist and I helped him with his hair and makeup, while I listened to the four of them discuss their summer vacation plans. There was a crease on the hem of his costume. I instinctively reached out to smooth it. "Smack!" Ben yelped, and my hand instantly turned red and swollen. "Don't touch it!" The conversation among the other three immediately stopped. Emily shot up and rushed to Ben's side, frowning at me. "What happened?" Ben seemed startled. Jake and Max also crowded around, glaring at me. Ben, carefully surrounded by the three of them, frowned and looked up at me. "The fabric of this costume is very delicate. It wrinkles and marks easily. Please don't touch it, okay?" I quickly tried to explain. "There was a crease." Ben frowned again. "I know you probably just wanted to touch it and see, but Emily went through a lot of trouble to get a master designer to rush this for me. It's very important for my performance." I fell silent for a moment. "Sorry." Jake shot me a look and complained to Ben. "I told you he was clumsy. This low-class guy has never seen anything nice. What if he ruined your expensive clothes?" Emily glanced at me. "Ben's clothes are handled by professionals. From now on, ask him before you touch any of his things." Max shoved me aside. "Ben called you here to help with the props. Go with that teacher and learn the cues. Don't come over here unless you have to." I squatted in a corner, distractedly memorizing the cues, and casually glanced their way. It seemed my little incident was already forgotten. I saw them talking about something else, making Ben laugh again. After the festival performance started, the rich kids sat in the front row, waiting to watch Ben dance. But I was stuck in the dusty prop room backstage, watching the stage on a monitor. Soon, it was Ben's turn. The moment he appeared, graceful as a prince, the entire auditorium fell silent. A second later, students were all raising their phones to record and take pictures. On stage, Ben was like a magical creature, his movements quick and smooth, as beautiful as a painting against the backdrop. Just as the dance was about to end, I finished setting all the props according to the plan and was about to head home. Suddenly, I heard a piercing scream. A commotion erupted outside. I frowned and quickly turned back. Ben had collapsed on stage in pain, his face deathly pale. A prop I had never seen before rolled near his foot. I was shocked and ran over to help him up. But Emily, rushing up like a madwoman, shoved me hard. I was thrown to the ground, my head hitting the sharp corner of a wooden shelf with a sickening crack. My vision went black. The last thing I saw was Emily's back as she held Ben. I heard Jake's furious voice, angrier than Emily for not getting there first. "Who was in charge of props? Where did this stupid ball come from?" The student he was questioning jumped, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Alex Quinn was in charge of the props for Ben's performance." Jake's eyes were bloodshot as he strode towards me. He grabbed me off the floor. "Alex Quinn, don't think you can get away with this by playing dead. I'm going to kill you." Suddenly, the students around us started screaming. "Blood!" "His head is bleeding." "Blood? What blood?" Jake's brow furrowed, and he instinctively reached for the back of his head. The blood on his hand was shocking. Jake's face went pale. He roared at the crowd gathering around. "What are you all crowding around for? Call an ambulance now!" Jake's voice trembled as he tried to find a pressure point on my face. "Alex! Alex! Stop shaking him, you idiot!" Max pushed through the crowd, checked for my breath, and frowned. "He's really out cold. We need to get him to a hospital." The crowd panicked, murmuring that someone was going to die. The auditorium was in chaos. The school nurse arrived with a stretcher, pushing everyone away. "Quick! Apply pressure to stop the bleeding. Get him on the stretcher. We can't wait for the ambulance. He needs to go to the hospital immediately." The school was equipped with professional emergency gear, and the nearest hospital was only a 10-minute drive away. Alex Quinn was loaded into the school's medical transport vehicle. Jake and Max, along with a few school administrators, got in as well. The nurse, busy applying pressure, said grimly that the situation looked bad. The two of them followed closely as Alex was rushed into the emergency room. Max pulled Jake aside, making way for the emergency doctors they had called. "You weren't the one who pushed him. What are you panicking for?" Max stared at the glowing light of the ER, his thoughts unreadable. "On the way here, I contacted the best neurosurgeon. He'll be here in 10 minutes. Jake was frozen stiff, completely stunned. Is he going to die?" But Max just scoffed. "If Alex Quinn really dies, Emily is in for a world of trouble. She really was kidnapped when she was a kid. Alex took a bullet for her to save her. Do you think she'd be alive today otherwise?" Jake was stunned. That story is true? But didn't Ben say Alex's dad exaggerated it to use the Harmons? Max said, "I checked. It's true." Jake, "Then how could Emily let us bully him all this time?" Jake froze. "Holy crap, he cursed, then dialed a number. But the call was rejected. Max sneered. "She thinks she can get away with it by not answering? The whole school saw what happened today. She dug her own grave, so we might as well help push her in. Now the Quinns, father and son, really have a reason to use her." Then he pulled out his phone and dialed another number. "Hello, Mr. Harmon?" An hour later, another team of top doctors brought in by the Harmon family entered the ER. Mr. Quinn knelt at the door of the emergency room in front of everyone, repeatedly slapping his own face. He cried as he slapped himself. "Alex, my boy, Dad is so sorry. I'm the one who ruined you. I never should have sent you to Miss Harmon's side when you were a kid." "Old Quinn, don't be like this. Let's talk things out," Mrs. Harmon said, her face pale, trying to pull him up with a forced smile. "I've doomed you." Even Mr. Harmon's bodyguards couldn't pull Mr. Quinn up. He continued to wail. "When you were 10, you almost died saving Miss Harmon. That bullet was right next to your heart. You were in the ICU for months. My son, why is your life so hard? You've only been to the hospital twice in your entire life." Mr. Harmon bent down to try and pull him up. "Old Quinn, this must be a misunderstanding. Alex will be fine. When Emily gets here, I'll give her a good talking to." "My life is so bitter." Mr. Quinn ignored him completely, beating his chest and wailing. "My son and I have such bitter lives. I work my fingers to the bone for the company. My son acts as a servant and takes a bullet for Miss Harmon, and this is how he's treated. He's my only son." Mr. Harmon's expression was grim. He turned to his assistant and asked impatiently, "Where did that little monster go? Why isn't she here yet? Causing all this trouble, where is she hiding?" The assistant showed him the location on his phone, his tone hesitant. "Mr. Harmon, the young miss isn't answering her phone. The location shows that she's also in this hospital." Emily hung up the phone. One call after another. Annoyed, she just turned her phone off. "What's wrong, Emily?" Ben, in his hospital bed, had just been settled in. His sprained ankle wasn't serious, and a nurse was applying medicine and massaging it. Emily suppressed the irritation in her eyes and forced a gentle smile. "It's nothing. Just my dad's assistant. Alex probably told my dad what happened today." Ben bit his lip. "Will your dad scold you? But you only bumped into Alex by accident. It's all my fault. If only I had seen that ball. If I hadn't fallen, you wouldn't have been in such a hurry. I'll go apologize to Alex later. If your dad scolds you, just blame it on me." Emily frowned. "Why should you apologize to him? Alex Quinn should be apologizing to you. I can't believe he would do something like this out of jealousy." Ben lowered his eyes, his handsome face filled with forced patience, looking particularly pitiful. "Alex probably didn't do it on purpose. Don't be too hard on him. He's only targeting me because of you. He did save you, after all. Does saving me once mean he can hold it over my head for a lifetime?" Emily irritably massaged her temples. "His family is always using the past to hold things over us. It's never ending. And that's no excuse for him to use such low-handed tactics to hurt you. Didn't my family clean up his mess? If it weren't for you being so kind, Ben, anyone else would never have let him off the hook." As Ben was softly comforting her, a chaotic rush of footsteps sounded from outside. The assistant burst in with a group of people, panting. Emily's brows, which had just been smoothed by Ben's words, were about to furrow again. But the next sentence left her frozen in place. Young miss! You have to go over there! Mr. Harmon is furious! Mr. Quinn hit his head and was rushed to the ER!" Ben gasped. "What? How could that happen? Emily? Emily?" Emily just stood there, completely oblivious to Ben's calls. "The doctor said Mr. Quinn's condition might be critical. If they can't save him tonight, he might—" Before he could finish, Emily shoved him aside and bolted out the door. The assistant was stunned for a moment. Then he and the others quickly followed to lead the way. Emily ran as fast as she could, the wind whistling in her ears, her mind flashing back to 7 years ago. She had run just like this back then, her vision blurred by tears, only to be stopped at the door of the emergency room. A younger her had cried her heart out, praying to any god to let him live. Now her throat was too raw to make a sound. She just ran forward numbly. A dark crowd of people was gathered outside the ER. The moment they saw her, all their heads snapped in her direction. The hot-tempered Jake lunged forward and punched her, but was immediately pulled back by others. "Emily, are you even human? You push him and just walk away? He passed out on the spot. Did you know that? He bled all the way here." Emily's lips moved, trying to say something, but a sharp slap from her father cut her off. "You monster! Get over here and apologize to your Uncle Quinn!" Emily was dragged to the front. Mr. Quinn, who was kneeling and wailing, saw her and immediately grabbed her arm. The 40-something man knelt before her, tears streaming down his face. "Miss Harmon, Alex grew up with you. Have you forgotten he saved your life? That bullet the kidnapper fired was meant for you. What did you say back then? You told everyone you would protect him for the rest of your life. But then you fell for Mr. Ben, and did Alex say anything? You treat him like this. Your whole group bullies him, making him serve you tea and water like a servant. Have you forgotten who helped you overcome your social anxiety when you were a kid?" Emily stared blankly at the man crying on the floor, unable to say a word. "Fine. I don't want anything now. I quit. Just give me my son back. Give me my son back." Old Quinn. Mr. Harmon hurriedly tried to stop him, his tone soft for the first time. "You're just saying that out of anger. You're doing a great job. The company still needs your help. Emily didn't do it on purpose. Don't worry, I'll definitely give you a proper explanation. Alex will be fine. Get up, please. I'm planning to promote you to general manager. You can't fall apart now." Mr. Harmon pleaded and made all sorts of promises. Finally, Mr. Quinn wiped his tears and allowed himself to be helped up, muttering about his bitter fate. Emily seemed to have lost the ability to speak, just standing there in a daze. After calming Mr. Quinn down, Mr. Harmon pulled her aside to a deserted corner, his brows furrowed. His tone was one of disappointment and anger. "Don't you have any sense of proportion? Why did you push him? Now look, whether he wakes up or not, we're going to have to compensate his father with company shares. Don't you know his father is handling a very important project for me right now? Do you have any idea how many company secrets Alex Quinn's father has access to? Didn't I tell you to handle Alex Quinn carefully? Even if you like Ben, you can't be too cold to him. Do you know how much a man who's in love with you can do for you? We had his IQ tested when he was a kid and thought he was a genius, even considered making him our son-in-law. Who knew he'd suddenly become so useless these past few years?" Emily felt as if her soul had been drained from her body. She remained silent in the face of her father's relentless accusations. The light in the emergency room stayed on all night. It wasn't until the middle of the night that the doctors finally came out. Jake and Max were the fastest, rushing over immediately. Mr. Quinn and Emily's parents also crowded around. Everyone had been waiting in terrified anticipation for the result. The doctors let out a collective sigh of relief, exhausted but visibly pleased, announcing they had won the battle against death. Emily's heart stopped for a second. Everyone surged forward but was held back. Alex Quinn was wheeled out, his head wrapped in bandages. His bloodless face was covered by a respirator, connected to a countless dense web of wires and IV tubes. He had survived. I've been on the brink of death twice now. So this time, starting from the beginning, 10 years of my life flashed before my eyes like a movie. Memories I had deliberately forgotten and buried broke through the surface. The pain was hidden in the quiet years, a dampness in my life that always throbbed with a secret ache. I could no longer pretend everything was fine. I've always been a spineless, weak person. My parents split up when I was 6. My dad always said it was because I was disobedient that I drove my mom away, so I started being very, very obedient, hoping my mom would come back for me. When we first moved to Chicago, my dad struggled at work. He always came home angry about something, and no matter what I did, he was never satisfied. I got hit a lot back then. After hitting me, he would hold me and cry, telling me how hard his life was. Actually, the first time I met Emily, I didn't like her. Not only did I not like her, I didn't like anyone else in that mansion either. The people who were from a different world than me, from head to toe. The people who looked me up and down with arrogant, dismissive eyes and then sneered. I was an uncomfortable mistake there. After being chosen by Emily, every time I went to the Harmon estate, I felt a suffocating pressure. But I didn't dare disobey my dad. So I had to pretend I loved playing with Emily. This girl was strange, had a huge temper, and was my dad's boss's daughter. My dad had to please her parents, so I had to please her. But the lavish lifestyle at the Harmons quickly amazed me. I got to eat cakes and delicacies I could never have afforded in my life. My material desires, which had never been met, were easily granted by them. Little Emily was moody and bossy. She wouldn't let me play with other kids, not even letting me talk to them for more than a few sentences. But back home, I was the king of the kids, super popular. Being trapped by her side, only able to play with her, didn't feel good. Emily was arrogant. She liked smart playmates who could understand her, but not ones who were too smart. After Mr. Harmon had my IQ tested, he was very pleased. But Emily, staring at my score, which was clearly higher than hers, had a sullen look on her face. If she couldn't solve a problem that I could, she would be unhappy. If I was quicker than her, she would be unhappy. In the Harmon household, Emily's happiness was the most important thing. so I had to pretend my abilities were about the same as hers. And that's when my true nature began to be suppressed. It's been suppressed to this day. Mrs. Harmon used to say that Emily needed me, that she couldn't live without me. So I was forced to stay by her side. Day after day, year after year. Like a bird with broken wings, Emily's side was a gilded cage. We were always together. I spent more time with her than anyone else. Whatever she did, I had to do too. Were those days happy? I guess so. Were those days painful? Yes, they were. When I was 10, my mom heard I'd been shot and was in the hospital. She traveled thousands of miles to see me. My son is a person, not a loyal servant of the Harmon family who's supposed to die for them. You can be their slave yourself, but don't drag my son into it. Is this the good job you were talking about? Then she and my dad had the biggest fight they'd ever had. It turned out they had only been separated. Now she wanted a divorce and was fighting for my custody. My mom refused Mrs. Harmon's check and didn't give her the time of day. Mrs. Harmon's face fell. My mom held my hand and asked if I wanted to go with her. I missed her so much. I cried and said I wanted to go home with her. The next day, Emily found out. Her expression was dark as she told me I wasn't allowed to leave. I was so angry at her for clinging to me and not letting me go. But just as I was packing my small bag, custody was awarded to my dad. My dad had a high income and the Harmon Corporation's professional lawyers. My mom didn't stand a chance. Little Emily looked triumphant as she threw my bag back at me. "Alex, I won't let you go. You can't leave." My first escape attempt failed. In my second year of middle school, when I was 13, my mom's career took off. She came back fully prepared this time. She was going to take me abroad for further studies with her as my guardian. We could finally leave. That time, things went surprisingly smoothly. My dad and the Harmons couldn't stop my mom and me anymore. Emily was popular by then, very social. I felt she didn't need me anymore. I said goodbye to her in a good mood. I told her I'd send her postcards and souvenirs from there. Emily had just returned from a dinner party. Hearing this, her face darkened. She took off her coat and threw it to a maid. She walked right past me without a word. A maid who had worked for the family for decades couldn't bear to watch anymore and tried to persuade me, "Young Master Alex, why are you doing this? The Harmons are raising you to marry into the family. If you stay, you can marry in. Why leave with your mother?" I was 13, and I still didn't understand why I had to marry Emily. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life with her. I had already been at her house for 5 years. I fantasized about living with my mom in a foreign country. I sat by the door, waiting for her to pick me up. Instead, what came was the news that she had been in a car accident on her way. The other driver was drunk and suddenly swerved into her lane. My mom didn't die on the spot, but she fell into a vegetative state. The driver was in his 50s or 60s, had no family, and had cancer. He died less than 6 months after being released on medical parole. But my mother was in her prime, at the peak of her career. She had never remarried, had no other children. She only had me. She was supposed to pick me up today so we could go home together. But on her way to get me, she fell into a sleep she would never wake from. Outside the emergency room, I was freezing cold. Emily was the first to arrive. She walked over quickly, took off her coat, and wrapped it around me. The girl hugged me, her warm voice inexplicably cold. "You see, Alex, the only person you can rely on is me." Her embrace was warm, but I shivered in her arms. My second escape attempt failed. From then on, I spent all my time at the hospital. I had missed my mom for 7 years, and we were so close. Why did it have to turn out this way? Emily went from patiently comforting me to threatening me with a cold face. For the first time, I didn't go along with her wishes. I stopped following her around every day. My life became a monotonous routine of school, hospital, and home. After I pulled my hand away from her one too many times, Emily got angry. "It seems I've been spoiling you too much." Emily had a maid pack up all my clothes and belongings and throw them back at my dad's place, kicking me out of the Harmon mansion. Now she was the one who refused to see me. The proud rich girl was waiting for me to apologize, to bow my head and coax her like I used to. But I just stayed by my mom's bedside, not saying a single word of reconciliation for months. I had been coaxing her for 7 years. I really didn't want to do it anymore. Even before Ben showed up, cracks had already formed in my relationship with Emily. The next time I heard about her, Ben was by her side, a perfect match in family background and looks. So one day after class, I congratulated her. I was genuinely happy for her at that moment. I said, "Emily, I'm happy for you." But Emily stopped, her face instantly turning dark. She didn't respond to my congratulations, and continued her cold war with me. As I was packing my bag after school to go see my mom, Emily suddenly spoke. Her voice was cold. "Alex, do you think you can survive like you do now without my protection?" I opened my mouth to say something, but she had already pushed past me to go find Ben. Soon after, Ben's 2 friends, Jake and Max, arrived, and I understood what she meant. Emily stood by and watched as I became the target of Jake and Max's bullying. Sometimes, after so long I couldn't tell, and I didn't dare to confirm. Was Emily just angry with me, or did she truly despise me? The word despise was so clear. I was like a beautiful pet, a toy she liked to play with. Now that she was tired of me, she just tossed me aside, and others could come and step on me. Yes, to her, Ben, Jake, and Max were all people of her class, just like her. Even if she didn't particularly like Jake and Max, she still respected them. For the past 7 years, she had liked me, but she didn't even have the same respect for me as she did for them. So I endured. My mother was still being treated in the Harmon family's hospital, so I endured. But my mother died. Outside the hospital, a heavy downpour. I cried my heart out over her body. Before I went to find Emily, she had already been on the brink of death. Her condition had improved greatly those few days. She had woken up and talked to me a lot. She said, "It's so good. My Alex has grown up so much. You're the one I worried about the most." She said, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault. When you were 6 and your dad took you away, I wasn't able to take care of you. In the future, never give up your career or your dignity for anyone. You have to rely on yourself first." I said, "Mom, I don't blame you. I'm not happy here. Get well soon, and I'll go home with you." She smiled and said, "Yes, okay, I'll take you home." But she lied to me. It was a final burst of energy before the end. My mom said one last thing to me. "Run, Alex. Run as far as you can. Mom can't go home with you anymore." She left me the money in her account and the contact information of her colleagues and friends. On that day, I lost the only person in the world who loved me. My dad sold me out for his own gain, a hypocritical schemer. When I was shot, he was secretly glad that my actions had put the Harmons in our debt. He didn't care if I was happy or sad. As I grew older, I realized he didn't love me at all. He even had several mistresses on the side. My childhood bond with Emily was completely broken that day. Broken by her words. Childhood sweethearts? He's just the help. After the funeral, I took my ID and household registration documents and ran. Afraid my dad would catch me, I didn't dare take any trains or planes. I hired a long-distance taxi. I carried her ashes in my bag, traveling 1,000 miles back to the hometown I had left as a child. My maternal grandparents had also passed away. After burying my mother, I didn't dare stay in a hotel that required registration, so I found a rental in an old part of the city and hid for over a month. I was my dad's cash cow for relying on the Harmons. He would never let me go. They reported me to the police and found me. In front of the officers, he said I was a rebellious kid who had run away from home. I wasn't an adult yet, even though I expressed a strong desire not to go with my dad. He was still my legal guardian. After a stalemate at the police station for several days, people from the Harmon family came with a lawyer and forcibly took me back. My third escape attempt failed. My heart was dead as I was pushed into the car. My dad relentlessly accused me of being willful and reckless. "You're being ridiculous. You've learned to run away from home. All because Miss Harmon said one thing to you. Do you know how worried Miss Harmon was? She's been looking for you. Go back and apologize to her." But as soon as I got back, I locked myself in my room and refused to see anyone. And as expected, Emily didn't come looking for me. I went back to school a month later. I wasn't a child anymore. This time my endurance was deeper, more patient. I was preparing for my fourth and final escape. I had two paths before me. Either my dad died, or I waited until I was 18. Besides, I still had a lot to do. In fact, ever since my mom's accident when I was 13, I had never given up investigating what happened. I had my ways. The programming classes I took with Emily as a child, I had a unique talent for it. A computer, the invisible network. No matter how brilliant I was at it, Emily would never see it. During that escape, I actually met someone else, the successor to the CEO of the company my mom used to work for. The new president who had just taken over the group. With a grand plan in my heart, the past 2 years of humiliation and endurance didn't seem so hard to bear. After all, I was much luckier than King Gojian of UA. It was just listening to their sneers, running errands for them, doing their homework, being on call, and getting paid for it. I counted down the days until I turned 18. That was the distance to my freedom. But when my head hit the ground, I couldn't help but feel a surge of resentment towards Emily, whom I had long given up on. The person who, as a child, promised to protect me for a lifetime was the only one who wielded the knife that stabbed me. When I opened my eyes, the first face I saw was Emily's. There were heavy, dark circles under her eyes. She looked utterly exhausted, and her usually impeccable suit was creased and wrinkled. Emily was keeping vigil by my bed. When she saw my eyes open, she jumped up in surprise. "Alex? Alex, you're awake!" Two people dozing on the sofa nearby immediately got up and walked over. I thought I was hallucinating. I was actually seeing Jake and Max. The most ironic thing was my dad wasn't in the hospital room, but the people I hated the most were. Alex? Emily's face drew closer, her expression filled with anxiety, but I just looked at her blankly. "Who are you?" The glass in Emily's hand slipped and shattered. The room fell silent. She was stunned in disbelief. "Alex, you're joking, right? How could you not remember me? How could you forget?" "All right. Does he remember that you were the one who pushed him?" Max sauntered over. "Hey, do you remember who I am?" I sneered inwardly, but kept my face blank and shook my head. "Jake, no way. Did he really lose his memory?" He reached out to touch my head, but I moved away in disgust and stared out the window. But Emily was acting like she had lost her mind. "This is impossible! Alex! Alex, you really don't remember me! Alex!" Her voice was incredibly hoarse, on the verge of breaking down. Emily's hands trembled as she grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. "Alex, look at me. It's me, Emily." Her voice sounded like she was about to cry, but I just looked at her with the eyes of a stranger, blank and unmoved. My cold gaze seemed to trigger something in Emily, and she began to shake my shoulders frantically. "Emily, what the hell are you doing? He just woke up." Jake yanked Emily away, but her fingers were clenched so tightly that I was pulled along with them. I was getting annoyed. I immediately clutched my head and pretended to be in immense pain. "It hurts. My head hurts so much." Emily instantly let go. "Alex," she didn't get to finish before Jake and Max dragged her away. In the hospital room, within just 2 hours, I had said the same thing to countless people. "Who are you? I don't remember you." Including my dad. I acted like I didn't know him at all, and when he said he was my father, I put on a look of complete disbelief. I listened from my room as the doctor told them I might have lost my memory due to injury to a certain part of my brain. The patient's amnesia may be temporary, or it may be permanent. But I have to give you a heads up. We need to observe him for other issues, and you should be prepared for the possibility that he may not return to his pre-injury state. As Mr. Quinn listened, he instantly sensed something was wrong. "Doctor, are you saying my son might be simple-minded?" The doctor, "We can't rule out that possibility." "My poor son," he started wailing again. "What will you do in the future? If you're simple-minded, who will want you?" Emily's parents' faces turned awkward at his words. The implication was so obvious. Their daughter would have to be responsible. Mrs. Harmon tried to call Emily, but she was sitting in a corner, her face in her hands, looking completely lost. I was getting tired of the noise. I acted like I was in pain and had the nurses shoo them away. It was quite a scene after I woke up. People came in waves, none of whom I wanted to see. But some people I didn't want to see. The hospital couldn't stop from coming in. Mr. and Mrs. Harmon came, their fake concern really just a way to find out how I was recovering. My dad came, his words hinting that whether I was simple-minded or not, I should act like it, preferably to the point of being unable to care for myself. Best to cling to Emily, act like I couldn't live without her. He had just been appointed general manager of the company yesterday. Beneath his superficial sadness was an unconcealable glee. "You two were childhood sweethearts. If it weren't for that brat from the Ben family seducing Miss Harmon, you would have been her fiancé. Would Dad ever harm you? You have to do as I say." I nodded obediently. Ben came too, under the guise of apologizing on Emily's behalf, but in reality, twisting the events of that day. He claimed I had tampered with things, that I was jealous of him for being liked by Emily. "I don't blame you anymore, Alex." Ethan's expression was full of pity, as if I had really done something to hurt him. He looked down at me on the hospital bed, my expression cold. "But could you please not pressure Emily anymore? She doesn't like you. If she did, how could she have pushed you like that? Oh, sorry. Emily feels very guilty and remorseful right now. She's already in a lot of pain. If you use this incident to force her, all you'll get is her guilt and compensation. But what happens over time? She'll resent you, Alex, because you forced her to marry you." I said, "Oh, so what are you trying to say? I don't know you, and I can't tell any of you people apart." My words choked him. His gentle expression almost cracked. "What I mean is, whatever compensation you want, we can give it to you." I nodded. "In that case, I don't want to see you. Can you get out now?" Ben left in a huff, and Emily came again. She looked even more haggard. Her expression hurt as she looked at me. "Alex, I remembered my dad's words clearly. The moment she said one word, I threw a pillow at her. Then I clutched my head, screamed, and started frantically pressing the call button for the nurse. Emily stood there, stunned, letting me throw whatever I could grab at her. She looked as if she had aged several years in an instant, her eyes red as she kept calling, "Alex!" until the doctors and nurses dragged her away. After much discussion and various scans, the doctors came to a conclusion. Emily was a trigger for me, worsening my condition and hindering my recovery. Mrs. Harmon seemed relieved, but my dad grew anxious, arguing that it was impossible and demanding to question me himself. Of course, the doctors stopped him. He then brought up the story of me saving Emily as a child, insisting that Emily couldn't just push me and then abandon me. He said she had ruined my life, and if she didn't take responsibility, who would have me? Jake sneered. When he was smart, she couldn't stand him. You think she'll want him now that he's a simpleton? The Harmons' faces fell, their expressions turning ugly at Jake's words. Emily's voice trembled, but for the first time, she responded to my dad's days of pressure. Her voice was hoarse. "I'll take responsibility. I'll marry him. I want him." But Jake got agitated. "He doesn't even remember you. You think just because he has amnesia and has become simple, all the crap you did can be wiped clean?" Emily yelled back. "You were the one who always bullied him. You all did. Who was it that always made him do your homework and run your errands? Jake, you have the nerve to say that." Jake was too stunned to argue, about to lunge at her before Max held him back. Max sneered. "You're right. We bullied him. But you were the one who isolated and excluded him, weren't you? The four of us. Who's clean? Who hasn't bullied him? But Emily, he was your friend. You were the one who allowed us to treat him like that. Everything he's endured these past 3 years was with your silent approval." Jake. "Exactly. Do you dare tell Alex Quinn what you told us? You said he was clinging to you, that his family was driving you crazy. You said you liked guys like Ben." Emily's chest heaved with anger, but she couldn't say a word in her defense. She had given Alex Quinn the cold shoulder for 4 years. It started with a few months of the silent treatment, but Alex had guts. He never once bowed his head or tried to make peace with her. 4 years, and he had never once come to her to reconcile. No, he came once. But what did she say then? Childhood sweethearts? He's just the help. And after that, Alex never came to her again, never called her Emily again. Emily was speechless. They parted on bad terms. The next day, during their group visit, I sat with a bandage on my head and expressionlessly filled out a Sudoku puzzle. I had specifically asked the doctor for it. I also asked for a high school physics and math Olympiad-level test paper. Half an hour later, I put down my pen and pushed the paper towards them. My dad's face turned white with rage. Mr. Harmon's assistant and secretary checked the answers, exclaiming in disbelief, "My God, Mr. Quinn is a genius! This is absolutely incredible! He could totally compete in the Olympiad!" Mrs. Harmon finally let out a sigh of relief. Her daughter wouldn't have to marry him. Mr. Harmon was also very happy. "This is a blessing in disguise, old Quinn," Mr. Harmon said, patting his shoulder happily. "You must be overjoyed, right? Your son is back to normal. I knew he had it in him since he was a kid. Say no more. We have to make sure he gets the best treatment. Then I'll have a special team assess his strengths and cultivate him properly. You're going to have a comfortable life with such an outstanding son." Mr. Harmon completely avoided mentioning the marriage Emily had previously agreed to, instead showering praise on me and promising to invest heavily in my development. Jake and Max's jaws dropped as they stared at the perfect score on the Olympiad paper. Holy crap! Ben also breathed a quiet sigh of relief, glancing at the test paper and the Sudoku. A flicker of resentful jealousy crossed his eyes before he put on a gentle smile. "Emily, this is great news. You can finally relax. Alex is completely fine. You've been at the hospital for so many days. You should go get some rest." But Emily didn't move. She stared at me intently. "Alex, you still don't remember?" I turned a page in the Sudoku book and continued filling it out, ignoring her. When my dad came to question me angrily, I used the same trick. I started screaming and clutching my head, scaring the doctors into dragging him away, too. Revealing my intelligence in front of them, although it saved me from being forced by my dad to marry Emily, had a downside. I don't know what Emily said to her dad when she went back, but my name was added to the list of students studying abroad. These 4 people were like a persistent shadow. So I tore up the test papers Mr. Harmon sent over, asked for paints and a sketchbook, and a computer. Surprisingly, it was Jake and Max who brought them. I gave them a cold look. Max plopped down on the sofa and pulled out his phone, looking like he was settling in for a while. Jake handed me the laptop and sketchbook, chattering non-stop. "What brand is this laptop? It's so heavy. I'll buy you a better one." "Don't use this one, it looks so old." Ignored him, put the laptop aside, and opened the sketchbook to pass the time. Those 2 really had the nerve to stay. Jake sat down next to me to see what I was drawing, making small talk. I didn't answer him, but he wasn't annoyed. He'd say a few bad things about Emily, then show me pictures and videos of the study abroad location, asking if I liked the scenery in Europe. I told him directly I didn't want to go, and that he should stop bothering me. Jake smiled sheepishly and scratched his head. "You seem a lot grumpier since you lost your memory." Max put down his phone and, using some excuse, sent Jake out to buy me food. He got up, walked over to me, and said with a half-smile, "Alex Quinn, you haven't really lost your memory, have you?" I didn't even look up, just kept sketching. Max sat down at the foot of the bed, his tone odd. "This is a pretty good move. You've hit Emily so hard she's completely disoriented. She doesn't have time to think about Ben anymore. Compared to your dad's pathetic act, your amnesia trick is much more brilliant. And you've proven it. Emily likes you, but it took you nearly dying for her to realize it. How long do you think that'll last?" I continued to sketch, not bothering to answer him. Max was smart, probably the only one with a brain in that group. He was right. But so what? He had only guessed that I hadn't lost my memory. Why did they all assume I was head over heels in love with Emily? Seeing that I wasn't responding, Max shrugged indifferently. "So cold." He smiled, then placed a USB drive on the bed. "A gift for you. It has the surveillance footage from the stage and backstage that day. The Harmons were quick to delete it, but if they had looked a little closer, they might have found out who threw the ball." My heart skipped a beat, but my pen didn't stop moving. There was no way in hell I threw that ball. You didn't need a brain to know it had something to do with Ben. It was just that Max's performance was completely bizarre. But I was tempted to ask him one soul-searching question. "Ben didn't choose you, did he? Feeling a little hurt?" Of course Ben wouldn't choose him or Jake. They were all rich kids, but their family backgrounds were several levels below Emily's. Ben was after Emily from the beginning. These 2 brothers were just pawns to stir up competition. Seeing no reaction from me, Max put the USB drive in my pocket. He was probably the one who most wanted Emily to change her mind and fall for me, hoping I would take this to Emily and completely take down Ben. Then he could reap the rewards. Max's hand rested on my shoulder. "But seriously, Emily is no good. Her parents don't like you either. But if you're determined to bang your head against that wall, I won't stop you. It's just that you do have other options." His tone at the end was ambiguous, hinting at something. Too bad I didn't give him a single glance. After a while, Max boredly took his hand back and sat down these past few days. Those two were permanent residents in my hospital room, visiting more often than my own father. Emily came every night, close to midnight. She always came in silence, watching me with sad eyes. Sometimes I pretended to be asleep, and she would watch for a long time before leaving. Sometimes when our eyes met, she would look overjoyed, only to have all her emotions extinguished by my, "I really don't remember you." She would always whisper to herself, "It's okay. It's okay, Alex. It's okay if you forgot. Some memories aren't good. It's okay that you forgot. I wanted to tell you I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Will you forgive me? I was really wrong. It was my fault. Can we start over?" In the dark, I watched her in silence. Emily had never bowed her head to anyone, never apologized. What was she apologizing for? For not letting me go? Or for being angry and giving me the cold shoulder? For that, "he's just the help"? Or for the 3 years of silent treatment? Or for my mother's car accident? Whichever it was, this apology was too late. I had no intention of accepting it. Just like the plans I had set in motion, once started, they would not stop. Emily left again, dejected like an abandoned puppy. I opened my laptop and silently, quickly typed out a string of code, sending a message to the other side. Everything is in place. I'm incredibly lucky. I recovered well and quickly. In less than a month, I had the bandages off and was discharged from the hospital. There were less than 30 days until finals, but the Harmons' intention was for me to skip them and go abroad with them. Jake was helping me pack, and my dad was talking to him with a beaming smile. It was a ridiculous situation. There really was no limit to how low a flatterer could go. Last week, Max told me that Ben had tearfully begged Jake for help. He cried and begged him to pretend to be good friends with me so that Emily would have no lingering attachments. And Jake actually went along with it. My dad didn't expose him at all, even agreeing with his claims. He had been repeatedly rejected by the Harmons and was already fed up. If his son couldn't marry the Harmon heiress, then becoming friends with the Jake family's son and joining forces in the future wasn't a bad idea. He probably also wanted to provoke Emily. This whole drama was so absurd I had to laugh. Ben was really at his wits' end, resorting to such desperate measures. But I understood why he didn't ask Max for help. Because Jake was a simple-minded jock, always the first to charge into battle for him. I didn't argue or deny it. It was too funny. One more thing to annoy everyone before I left. I didn't mind. Jake's acting was quite convincing. Whenever Emily came looking for me, he would argue with her as my good friend. That didn't hurt her. What hurt her was my silence. I never denied Jake's words. After a few times, Emily became disheartened and stopped coming. But Jake was incredibly annoying. I barely paid him any attention, but he still insisted on pestering me. Remembering the past, I started ordering him around, sending him on all sorts of errands to keep him busy. After Jake left, Max would jokingly ask how much longer I was going to play this fool. He warned me that Jake might get fed up and stop pretending, and then he'd beat me up. I glanced at him. I really thought this guy was two-faced. Once, while I was walking around the hospital, I overheard them talking in a deserted corner. I eavesdropped. "Max, are you pretending, or is this for real? Can't you see that guy is deliberately messing with you, making you go buy all that stuff?" Jake got agitated. "Of course I'm acting. How could I ever be friends with him?" Max sneered. "You'd better be." Dogs fighting dogs. I now believed the four of them probably had 8 different group chats behind each other's backs, yet they still called themselves the Fantastic Four. After being discharged, I just stayed in my room and refused all visitors. A few days later, the Harmons held a party. Emily came to my door during the day with a suit. My dad made her wait for a while before leading her up to me. Emily's tone was pleading. "Alex, this was custom made to your size. It's a style you used to love. Will you just take a look?" Emily thought she was going to be rejected again, but I looked up. "Let me see it." Emily was overjoyed and quickly handed over the suit. I didn't take it. I asked her, "When does the party start?" "In the evening." As the party began, Emily carefully slowed her pace, looking back at me from time to time. Her eyes were filled with genuine admiration and praise. "Alex, you look so handsome." My face was expressionless, but I offered a rare response. "Yeah, I am pretty handsome." This party was hosted by the Harmons to welcome the new heir of another main branch of the family from Seattle. It was said that the Song family from Seattle was even more powerful and influential than the Harmons, so Mr. and Mrs. Harmon had arrived early, their faces plastered with eager smiles. The Fantastic Four were there, of course. When Ben glanced at me, his handsome face inevitably froze for a second. I stood by Emily's side and gave him a slight smile. When Max and Jake saw me, their eyes flashed with surprise and admiration. Max stood a little straighter, while Jake walked right up to Emily and angrily demanded to know what she was thinking. Emily sneered. "Jake, you sent him so many gifts. Did he even look at them? He's only wearing the suit I gave him." I listened to their pointless arguments over who I belonged to. Suddenly, I heard a commotion at the front. The main guest had arrived. A distinguished figure surrounded by bodyguards slowly walked over and greeted the Harmon family. Finally. I looked at the tall figure surrounded by the crowd. It was the first time I had seen Emily's father so overly respectful. "Miss Serena, it's so wonderful to have you in Chicago. You must stay for a while." She was a stunningly beautiful young woman, and the only one in a room full of dresses who didn't need to wear one. She didn't need a male escort either. She had her own circle of people fawning over her. Is this what power feels like? It's wonderful. Emily pulled me over to greet her. "Cousin." Serena's beautiful eyes narrowed as she looked at me. Emily quickly introduced me. "This is Alex. He's my fiancé." Her parents' expressions changed, but in front of everyone, they didn't say anything. The other three had varied, unpleasant expressions on their faces. "So you're my cousin's fiancé," Serena said, staring at me with a smile and extending her hand. I clasped her hand firmly, my tone serious. "I've heard so much about you, Ms. Song. We've made contact." This wasn't our first meeting. 2 years ago, when I ran away from home, I called the number my mom had left me. The company she worked for had just gone through a major leadership change. The chairman had passed away, and a new successor had taken over. Serena found me. The first time I saw her, I knew she could help me. According to the Fantastic Four's original plan, they were going to go skiing in Switzerland in late May. When Ben brought it up again, no one was very enthusiastic. Seeing him as a lonely commander, I felt pity and said I would go. Emily carefully suggested that if I didn't want to see Ben, she and I could go together. I smiled. How could we do that? After all, we're a 5-person group. No one can be left out. On a private jet across the ocean, Emily thought she had found a chance to fix our relationship, but I insisted on bringing the other 3. But when we got there, and Emily and the others were about to go skiing, I claimed to be tired from the journey and wanted to rest first. This rest lasted for several days. At first, Emily wanted to stay with me and not go skiing with Ben. But after being invited a few too many times, she went skiing with the other three. I had calculated everything. I had brought my passport, ID, and all my important documents on this trip. 2 hours after Emily left, Serena sent a message saying it was time to move. So I put on my ski gear and slung on the backpack I had prepared. Under the surveillance cameras, I walked step by step towards the snow-covered mountain. I used to ski with Emily a lot as a child, so I was quite skilled. I skied further and further away. Then, following the location Serena had given me, I navigated through a series of winding paths to a deserted area with no tourists. Someone was already waiting for me there. We made contact. I followed them down a deserted path, avoiding all surveillance, and got into a car. Then I boarded a private plane sent by Serena. With her help, every detail would be more believable. I was less than half a month away from being old enough to be completely free of my dad's control, but there was no better opportunity than this to escape. Serena would arrange for my disappearance on the mountain, a perfect escape, and this plane would fly back to the country. Serena had already taken care of all the necessary procedures for me to take the final exams in Seattle. More than 10 hours later, we landed at a private airstrip in Seattle. Serena was already waiting there. As soon as I got off the plane, she handed me my exam admission ticket and a crystal goblet. Serena raised her glass to me with a smile. "Congratulations on your new life. Those who leave the ICU either face death or a new life." I survived. Of course, I was welcoming a new life. My fourth escape attempt was finally a success. On the other side of the world, Emily's group was in chaos. Alex Quinn was missing. They reported it to the local police, but by nightfall, there was still no news. A tourist had seen which way Alex had gone and pointed them in the right direction. But it was an unopened area, making the search and rescue operation extremely difficult. As time passed, Emily grew more and more frantic. Missing on a snowy mountain. The chances were he might be. She began to hate herself for going skiing with them. She left him alone just once, and he got into trouble. The vacation, which was meant for relaxation, had turned into a nightmare because of what happened to Alex. Ben, who had suggested the ski trip, was pale with guilt. The mood in the group was anything but joyful. It was overwhelmingly oppressive. Ever since Alex was hospitalized, everything had changed. No one revolved around Ben anymore. Emily was a nervous wreck, bowing and scraping just to get Alex to look at her or say a word. Even Jake and Max were always at Alex's side. They had wanted to ski too, but now that Alex was missing, they were blaming it all on Ben. These people were acting like they were possessed. But amidst the chaos, Ben had a nagging feeling that something was wrong. And this secret unease was confirmed a day later when the search party found Alex's phone. After warming it up and charging it, they cracked the password. Among the countless missed calls and unread messages, one read message from Ben stood out. The date was the day Alex went missing. Ben, Alex, Emily, and the others are hurt. Can you bring the first aid kit? The location sent was the exact area where the search party found the phone. Ben's face turned white as if he had been hit over the head with a club. His lips trembled as he stammered an explanation. "I didn't send that. That's not the message I sent." The way the other three looked at him was as if they wanted to eat him alive. In the next instant, Emily, her eyes bloodshot, lunged at him and grabbed his throat. "It was you! Ben, you set Alex up last time too. If it weren't for you, Alex wouldn't have been injured and lost his memory." Her expression was terrifying. Ben could barely breathe. "That's a person's life. Ben, there's a limit to your jealousy and scheming. Did you want to kill Alex?" People pulled the enraged Emily away, but their gazes towards Ben were no longer friendly. "If anything happens to Alex, I'll make you pay with your life." Jake held back the frantic Emily, while Max just watched coldly. Ben was on the verge of a breakdown, crying and desperately trying to explain, "It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. This time it really wasn't me." He had sent a message to Alex, but it definitely wasn't that one. Ben's vision went black. But with the evidence right there, he had no way to defend himself. It was aimed at him. Alex Quinn was definitely getting his revenge. A few days later, I heard that the rescue team in Switzerland had found nothing on the mountain. Ben was brought back home by his family, supposedly to recuperate, but really to protect him from Emily's revenge. Emily and the other two stayed behind, still searching for me. I heard they wanted to find me, dead or alive. On the day of the finals, it was a dreary, rainy day. At 3:00 a.m., a gaunt Emily was still up all night, waiting for news from the search party. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Seattle, at 9:00 a.m., the exams officially began. "The exam has now started. Candidates, you may begin." I let out a long breath, free from all restraints and shackles. I picked up my pen and began to write my future. After the exams, I checked my answers once and then didn't look at them again. Serena smiled and asked me what I thought my score would be. I conservatively replied that I could probably choose any university I wanted. "Serena, you're even more brilliant than your mother. Before you were born, she was the youngest CFO in my father's company. I thought you would follow in her footsteps, but I didn't expect you to be such a rare genius in information technology. A year ago, I became a cybersecurity consultant for Serena's group. I was excellent at fending off attacks from foreign entities or competing companies' hackers. She was very satisfied. If I could defend, I could also invade. For the past 2 years, I had endured humiliation as the help around the four of them, secretly digging up dirt on their families and closely monitoring the Harmon family's movements. After biding my time, I was ready to strike. 2 years ago, Serena told me that my mother's car accident was not an accident, but a deliberate disaster. My mother was the company's CFO at the time, a key figure. Serena had people investigate the accident. On the surface, everything seemed normal. But Serena discovered that the son of the driver at fault had already gone abroad half a month before the accident. An overseas account had received a deposit of $2 million. At that point, what was there not to understand? Serena gave me the information on the unknown account that made the payment. I followed the trail, tracing the IP address layer by layer. I traced it back to a small, obscure trading company under Emily's father. In that moment, I was consumed by rage and hatred. I knew that even if I handed this evidence to the authorities, not only were my methods of investigation illegal, but Emily's father had plenty of people to take the fall for him. They had done it so cleanly that it would be impossible to trace it back to him, the big boss. All because his daughter couldn't bear to let her beloved toy leave. Mr. Harmon just had to lift a finger, and my mother suffered a terrible fate. The more I learned about their family's power and influence, the more terrified I became. My desire for revenge was like an ant trying to shake a tree. After I returned, I kept thinking, how much did my dad know about this? Or was it possible that my dad was also an accomplice in my mother's death? After all, if my mom had taken me away, it would have been nothing but detrimental to him. Everything he gained in the Harmon group was because of me. And what about Emily? Did she know? If she didn't know, why did she arrive so quickly that day? Why did she say those things? Why was she so sure I couldn't leave? A chill ran down my spine. One was my own father, the other was the friend I grew up with. Yet they might have been accomplices in my mother's murder. I stayed up all night, then accepted Serena's offer of cooperation. She would help me break free from the Harmon family and my dad. I would help her take over the Harmon family's decades-old business empire in Chicago. I couldn't get revenge on my own. So I went back with my dad, back to them. My dad was Mr. Harmon's deputy and held most of the group's secrets. Those secrets were either paper documents he kept at home or electronic files. Breaking into his computer was as easy as breathing. In fact, if you look closely, every corporation has its dirty secrets and gray areas. But no matter how deeply they were hidden, as long as they used electronic devices, I could dig them up. Finding out about the Jake, Max, and Ben families' secrets was just a matter of convenience. Serena also needed 2 years to completely take over her father's assets. The date was approaching, and the 4 of them were going abroad. Actually, Ben didn't need to deliberately leave his backup phone for me to see. I could know their every move in an instant. But what good would hiding abroad do? When the fires of revenge were lit, they would be the first to be burned, with no escape. The only mistake was Ben's sudden fall on stage, and Emily pushing me against the sharp corner of a shelf. I almost died. If there had been even a slight miscalculation, I could have been left with brain damage, or like my mother, in a vegetative state. I had been struggling with how to deal with Emily because of our past, but now I had no such concerns. Before I passed out, I didn't feel bitterness. I had been bitter for the past 3 years. What I felt was hatred. The hatred of having my own body fatally wounded. You regret it now? You feel guilty now? What were you doing before, Emily? I almost died. Step by step, one by one. Just as we had planned. The message about Ben on the mountain was just a small gift in return. A return for his slander and framing during the school festival performance. The main event was just beginning. The project the Harmon Group was handling suddenly ran into one problem after another. Mr. Quinn was taken in for investigation on suspicion of leaking company secrets. One disaster followed another. All of Emily's father's past illegal projects and gray area businesses were exposed, causing a public uproar. This attracted the attention of the relevant authorities, and the Harmon family was too preoccupied to deal with it. Mr. Harmon was desperately seeking help. The businesses of the Max, Jake, and Ben families were also exposed. Because the 4 families were so closely linked with many business dealings, it was basically a domino effect. The surveillance video of Jake beating up Mutt had long been deleted by the Jake family, but it reappeared today as everyone was kicking them while they were down. And the students that Ben, Jake, and Max had bullied in the past, the victims whose cases had been handled by their families, all came forward with videos. There were pictures and videos, irrefutable proof, plus the one-sided public opinion. More students who had been bullied by them spoke out online, corroborating the stories. Justice, long overdue, was finally served through the actions of an anonymous hacker who laid bare a bloody record of crimes. On the other side of the internet, I silently watched as all the evidence I had collected over the years was sent out. Suddenly, I felt a sense of relief. A multi-pronged attack. I would leave them with no room to fight back. Ben, relying on the adoration of his 2 brothers, would destroy any boy who got close to his possessions. He would pretend to be their friend, then use all sorts of methods to ruin them behind their backs. It was only because of my special status and my father's high-ranking position at the Harmons that I wasn't easily targeted with compromising photos. As for Jake's ridiculous crush, it was more like humiliation. He would belittle and mock me, deliberately call me ugly, spread nasty rumors about me and my desk partner, and then beat her up. Was I supposed to wag my tail and thank him for his affection? And Max, who never took the lead himself but was behind every incident, naturally couldn't escape either. I simply couldn't bring myself to be grateful to these two moody young masters for the affection they had for my appearance, or for my refusal to grovel. A disgusting, unsettling feeling, like something stuck in my throat, something not worth keeping but hard to discard. By the time the final exam scores were released, my score was redacted from public view. Those families were bled dry, in shambles, and the negative impact was still spreading. Forced to cut their losses, they suffered greatly and were severely weakened. The Harmon family was a special case, with deep roots and extensive connections. The main target was Emily's father. Serena waited until the Harmon family was on the verge of collapse before she, with a winning hand, accepted their repeated pleas for a meeting. But she wasn't there to offer a helping hand. She was a venomous snake. She had already drafted a contract to strip them of their power. She was going to swallow them whole. My top score in Seattle would soon shatter the fake news of my disappearance on the mountain. The four of them probably already knew that I had faked my disappearance and fooled everyone. But I didn't leave Seattle. I waited for my old friends to come to me. When Emily appeared before me, I almost didn't recognize her. The once proud and elegant rich girl was haggard and had lost a lot of weight. She was dusty from travel and hadn't even taken a moment to rest. She found me almost immediately. Emily's voice was hoarse and tired. Why? I didn't know if she was asking why I disappeared or why I was retaliating against her family. Emily, this is probably the last time we'll see each other. When I found out the truth about my mother's car accident, I also wanted to ask you, why? When you let Jake and Max bully me, I also wanted to ask you, why? When you pushed me, I also wanted to ask you, why? But then I realized you never saw me as a person. I was your toy, your servant. So when I disobeyed you, you were unhappy. When I wanted to leave, your father, for your sake, had someone run over my mother. Are you going to talk about love? Emily, do you really think I'd believe that nonsense about you using Ben to make me jealous? For 3 years? Your heart wavered. For those 3 years, you were leaning towards him. You liked Ben then. People don't just like one person their whole lives. But Emily, I'll say it one last time. I only ever saw you as a childhood friend. I never ever liked you, and I never wanted to marry you. Emily's eyes were vacant, her lips just moved. I know. But Emily, you held me back. Do you know that? Do you know what kind of life my mother had planned for me? I took a step closer to her, staring directly at her. Emily crumbled under my sharp gaze. A life where I could develop freely, plan my own days, without having to accompany someone all the time. Where I didn't have to hide my talents, didn't have to carefully protect someone's ego by concealing my own abilities. Where I didn't have to watch people's expressions, didn't have to be someone's servant. I just had to be myself. With each question, the color drained from Emily's face. By the end, she was on the verge of collapsing. I'm sorry. I was selfish, Alex. I'm sorry. I backed her up against the main gate, step by step, then reached out my hand just like that day and pushed her hard. Emily's eyes were full of shock. She was lucky. She just fell. Get out, Emily. Don't ever bother me again. I'm alive because I'm lucky, Because I'm tough. I don't want your guilt or your compensation. After all, you were one step away from mourning at my grave." The gate slammed shut in her face. Emily wouldn't have time to bother me anymore. Her family had plenty of problems waiting for her. She stood outside the villa for a long, long time, until she passed out in the early morning and was taken away by the people following her. The day after I turned 18, I went to Chicago. I cursed out Max, punched Jake, and humiliated Ben. Then I cut ties with them completely. They were actually afraid of me now. It seems those days of being universally hated had taken their toll. Mr. Quinn lost everything. Everything he had gained because of me was gone. A stray dog. He cursed me, blaming me for not listening to him. Until I told him that if he didn't learn to live with his tail between his legs, what happened to my mom, I would make him experience it too. Of course, I was just scaring him. It was funny. When he found out I was behind the downfall of those 4 families, he started to fear me too. This man who had been so arrogant his whole life finally couldn't be arrogant anymore. He did know the truth about my mom's accident. He might have even been involved. He had just reached the position of general manager only to be thrown down again. His wife and son were gone, and his mistresses had run off. Coincidentally, Emily's father, while driving, was hit and killed on the street by another person with nothing to lose. Karma. A fine play. After everything settled, my revenge was complete. Serena was handling the cleanup. She still took the time to see me off. I left with the admissions team from MIT. Serena smiled and asked why I was in such a hurry. I smiled back and said I was afraid of unforeseen complications, that those families might come back for revenge. She said they probably didn't have the time for that. Serena invited me for a deeper collaboration, to come work for her officially after graduation. I told her that a professor in the physics department had invited me to participate in his summer research, and said with a smile, "We'll see." In my account was the final payment from Serena, enough money for me to choose my own path in life. "Mom, I now have enough capital to accept or reject anyone or anything. I can stand on my own 2 feet in this world. Don't worry about me anymore. Your son is very strong now. I will, as you hoped for me, aim high and reach for the stars." In my 18th year, I finally welcomed my own new life.